In the chaotic heart of Chicago's O'Hare Airport, Captain Alex Thompson stood frozen as his own crew turned on him with sneers and whispers of "faggot pilot" echoing through the gate. Security guards roughly escorting him away from the cockpit door he had walked through 100 times before. What happened next sent the entire terminal into absolute pandemonium, proving that one man's hidden truth could shatter the illusion of safety for thousands. Alex's heart hammered against his ribs as the two burly security officers gripped his arms tighter than necessary, their faces masks of professional indifference, while the crowd of passengers and fellow crew members stared openly. The words still rang in his ears, words his co-pilot, Derek Harlan, had shouted loud enough for everyone at Gate B12 to hear. "We don't need a guy like you in the cockpit. Who knows what else you're hiding?" Derek had sneered, holding up Alex's phone that he had accidentally grabbed during pre-flight briefing. The screen opened to a private text thread with Alex's boyfriend, Jake. The photos were innocent enough, a weekend hike in the Rockies, arms around each other. But to Derek, they were ammunition. The ban had come swift and brutal. The chief pilot on duty, a man Alex had flown with for years, simply nodded once after Derek's accusation and muttered, "Grounded until further notice." Company policy on conduct. No hearing, no explanation, just the cold click of the gate closing behind him as passengers murmured and pointed. Alex's uniform, pressed and perfect that morning, now felt like a costume he no longer had the right to wear. At 32, he had logged over 6,000 hours in the air, saved lives during an engine failure over the Atlantic 2 years ago, and never once let personal life bleed into the job. Until today, chaos erupted exactly 4 minutes later. A frantic voice crackled over the airport PA system. "Attention all passengers and personnel. This is an emergency. All flights are temporarily grounded. Repeat, all flights grounded. Proceed calmly to the nearest exit." Red lights began flashing along the terminals. People froze mid-step, then surged forward like a wave. Alex heard the words "bomb threat" and "unidentified package" ripple through the crowd. Screams mixed with the wail of alarms. Security officers who had just dragged him away now sprinted in the opposite direction, radios blaring. Alex stood there, still barred from his own plane, watching the panic unfold. The very aircraft he had been scheduled to captain, Flight 472 to Los Angeles, was now the center of the storm. A maintenance crew had discovered something suspicious in the cargo hold right after he was removed. Derek, the man who had outed him, was supposed to take over as captain, but in the confusion, no one could locate him. Passengers assigned to that flight were crying, parents clutching children, elderly travelers collapsing onto benches. The entire airport felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for disaster. A young gate agent Alex, recognized from previous layovers, spotted him through the madness. "Captain Thompson, they need you. The ground crew says only you know the emergency override procedure for that model. Please." Her voice cracked with desperation. The same security officers who had humiliated him moments earlier now looked at him with wide, pleading eyes. Alex could have walked away. He could have let them feel the weight of their prejudice. Instead, something deeper than anger stirred inside him, the same instinct that had kept him alive in the skies for a decade. He straightened his shoulders, adjusted his captain's hat, and ran toward the plane that had just rejected him. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared as technicians frantically worked. The suspicious package was real, a device wired into the fuel lines that could have turned Flight 472 into a fireball. Derek was nowhere to be found. He had apparently fled the terminal the moment the threat was announced. Alex's hands moved on autopilot, fingers flying over switches he knew better than his own heartbeat. "Clear the area," he ordered, voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. "I'm initiating manual disarm sequence." The team obeyed without question. In that moment, no one cared who he loved. They only cared that he could save them. As the device clicked safely into deactivation, the terminal outside erupted in relieved cheers and sobs. News crews already on site began filming. Alex stepped out of the plane to flashing cameras and grateful passengers hugging him. But beneath the applause, he felt the familiar ache returning. The The same people who had mocked him minutes ago now wanted selfies. Derek's betrayal had exposed more than his sexuality. It had exposed the fragile line between hero and outcast. Alex's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Jake. I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm on the next flight to Chicago. For the first time in hours, Alex allowed himself a small, genuine smile. The panic was over, but his real journey was just beginning. He had no idea that this single afternoon would unravel every carefully built wall in his life. His strained relationship with his conservative Texas family, the fragile friendship with colleagues who had once called him brother, and the deepening love with Jake that both saved and terrified him. As the airport slowly returned to order, Alex walked through the terminal with his head high, knowing that the real turbulence was waiting on the ground. The drive from O'Hare to his apartment in Lincoln Park felt surreal. Alex gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, the city lights blurring past as Chicago's skyline glowed against the night sky. His mind replayed the afternoon on an endless loop. Derek's sneer, the security guard's rough hands, the sudden shift from villain to savior. He had saved hundreds of lives today, yet the victory tasted bitter. His reflection in the rearview mirror showed the same clean-shaven, square-jawed face that had earned him the nickname Golden Boy at the Airline Academy. No one had ever guessed the truth behind that perfect pilot smile. Jake was waiting on the stoop when Alex pulled up, his tall, athletic frame wrapped in a simple hoodie and jeans. The moment Alex stepped out of the car, Jake pulled him into a fierce embrace right there on the sidewalk, not caring who might see. "You scared the hell out of me," Jake whispered against his hair. They had been together for 3 years, meeting during a layover in San Francisco when Jake, a graphic designer, had been sketching at the airport cafe. Their connection had been instant, quiet conversations that stretched into sunrise, shared dreams of a future where Alex could fly without hiding. But even Jake didn't know the full weight Alex carried. Inside the apartment, Alex finally let the mask slip. He sank onto the couch, hands trembling as he recounted every humiliating detail. Jake listened without interruption, his dark eyes steady and full of love. "You don't have to be the hero every single time," he said softly, taking Alex's hands. "Maybe it's time to stop protecting everyone else and start protecting yourself." The words landed like stones in still water. Alex had spent his entire adult life protecting his family from disappointment, his career from scandal, his heart from rejection. Coming out at 19 to his father had ended with a slammed door and 6 months of silence. His mother still sent birthday cards addressed only to Alex, as if his sexuality were a phase she could ignore. The next morning brought the first real consequence. Alex's phone lit up with messages from the airline. A mandatory meeting at headquarters downtown. He arrived in civilian clothes, feeling strangely naked without his uniform. The HR director, a sharp woman named Carla, slid a file across the desk. "We've reviewed the incident. Captain Harlan has been suspended pending investigation for misconduct. Your actions yesterday saved lives, Captain Thompson. The company wants to issue a public commendation." She paused, eyes softening. "But there's the matter of your personal life becoming public. Several crew members have filed complaints about feeling uncomfortable. We're offering counseling and a transfer to a less visible route." Alex stared at her, the offer feeling like another cage. "So I save the day and still get punished for who I am." Carla didn't flinch. "It's not punishment. It's damage control. The industry is changing, but not fast enough." As he left the building, Alex felt the familiar knot of shame tighten in his chest. He drove straight to the small park where he and Jake often walked their rescue dog, Luna. Jake was already there, throwing a ball across the grass. Watching him, Alex realized how much he had been asking Jake to live in the shadows with him. Quiet dates, separate hotel rooms on trips, never posting photos together. That evening they cooked dinner together. The simple act of chopping vegetables side by side, feeling revolutionary after yesterday's chaos. Jake set down his knife and turned to Alex. "I love you, but I can't keep watching you shrink yourself to fit everyone else's expectations. Yesterday proved the world needs you exactly as you are." Alex pulled him close, breathing in the familiar scent of citrus soap and safety. For the first time, the idea of living openly didn't feel like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. It felt like coming home, yet the ground was still shifting. His sister Emily called from Texas that night, voice tight with worry. Dad saw the news. He's not handling it well. Mom's crying. They want you to come home and explain. Alex closed his eyes. The last time he had been home, his father had refused to shake his hand after Alex had come out. Now the entire country knew. The call ended with a promise to visit soon, but Alex's stomach twisted at the thought. As he lay in bed that night, with Jake's arm draped across his chest, Alex stared at the ceiling. The airport panic had been terrifying, but this new panic, the one inside his own life, was deeper. He had spent years building a flawless career to prove he was worthy. Now the mask was gone, and he had no idea who he was underneath. Tomorrow he would face the crew again. Tomorrow he would decide whether to fight or fly away. For now, he held Jake tighter and let himself believe, just for a moment, that love might be strong enough to carry them both through whatever came next. The crew lounge at O'Hare felt like enemy territory the next morning. Alex walked in wearing his uniform for the first time since the incident, the wings on his chest suddenly heavier than usual. Conversations died mid-sentence. Some colleagues offered awkward nods of respect for his heroism. Others turned away, whispering behind coffee cups. Derek was conspicuously absent, his suspension official now. But the damage lingered like jet fuel fumes. A young flight attendant named Maria approached him first, her eyes bright with genuine admiration. "What you did yesterday was incredible, Captain. I don't care what anyone says about your personal life. You saved my sister. She was on that flight." Her words were a small lifeline. Others followed. The ground crew who had worked beside him during the disarmament, a senior captain who had quietly advocated for him behind closed doors. But the support felt fragile against the undercurrent of judgment. One veteran pilot, Captain Reynolds, pulled him aside. "Kid, you're on the best we have. Don't let this define you. Keep your head down." The advice stung because Alex no longer wanted to keep anything down. His phone buzzed during the briefing, Jake sending a simple heart emoji and a photo of Luna with a note. "We're proud of you. Come home safe." Alex smiled despite himself. That afternoon, he was cleared to fly again, assigned a short domestic route to Denver. The moment the wheels left the runway, the familiar calm returned. Up here, 35,000 feet above the world, no one cared who he loved. The sky had always been his sanctuary. Landing in Denver brought an unexpected visitor. Jake had surprised him with a same-day ticket, waiting at the gate with 2 cups of coffee and that crooked grin that still made Alex's pulse race. They spent the layover walking through the city, hands brushing but never quite holding in public. "I booked us a hotel room under my name," Jake said softly. "No more hiding in separate rooms." The gesture was small but seismic. That night, in the quiet of the hotel, they talked for hours about the future, about kids they might adopt someday, about the house they dreamed of in California. Alex felt the walls inside him cracking open. But reality crashed back the next morning. His mother called while he was waiting for departure. "Your father had a heart scare last night. The doctor says stress. He keeps watching the news clips of you at the airport." Her voice broke. "He won't say it, but I think he's scared he's losing you forever." Alex stared out at the Rockies, snow-capped and indifferent. The guilt he had carried for 13 years surged forward. He had left Texas at 21, chasing the sky to escape the weight of his father's disappointment. Now the sky had brought everything back to earth. He promised to fly home that weekend. Jake offered to come, but Alex shook his head. "This is something I have to do alone first." The flight back to Chicago was turbulent, mirroring the storm in his chest. That evening he packed a small bag while Jake watched from the doorway. "Call me the second you need me," Jake said, pulling him into a kiss that tasted like goodbye and promise all at once. As Alex drove to the airport for the red-eye to Dallas, he realized the real test wasn't saving a plane full of strangers. It was facing the people who had known him longest and still didn't know him at all. Texas greeted him with blistering heat and familiar roads. His childhood home looked smaller than he remembered, the porch swing still creaking in the breeze. His mother opened the door first, tears already falling as she hugged him tight. His father sat in the living room recliner, face pale but eyes sharp. The silence stretched until Alex couldn't bear it. "I'm still your son," he said quietly. "I'm still the boy you taught to fly model planes in the backyard. The only thing that's changed is that I'm not pretending anymore." His father's hands trembled on the armrests. "You almost died yesterday because of who you are. People like that co-pilot could have gotten everyone killed." The words weren't kind, but they weren't rejection either. It was the first crack in 13 years of stone. His mother made coffee, and they sat at the kitchen table talking until dawn. Awkward, painful, honest. No hugs, no grand apologies, but no slammed doors. When Alex left for the airport the next morning, his father walked him to the car. "Be careful up there," he muttered. It wasn't acceptance, but it was a beginning. On the flight home, Alex stared at the clouds and felt something shift inside him. The boy who had run from Texas was gone. The man who returned carried scars, but also strength. Jake met him at O'Hare with open arms and no questions. That night, lying together in the dark, Alex whispered, "I think I'm ready to stop running." Jake kissed his temple. "Then we run together, toward whatever comes next." The decision felt both terrifying and freeing. He had faced the sky's worst and his family's hardest. Now the only storm left was the one inside his own heart, and for the first time, he believed he could weather it. The commendation ceremony at airline headquarters was scheduled for the following Friday. Alex stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, the same uniform he had nearly lost, now feeling like armor. Jake waited in the living room, looking sharp in a charcoal suit. "You look like the hero you are," he said, straightening Alex's captain wings. Together they drove downtown, hands linked openly on the console for the first time in public. The small act sent a thrill through Alex that no amount of altitude could match. The ballroom was packed with executives, crew members, and local media. When Alex stepped onto the stage to receive the Medal of Valor, the applause was thunderous. Carla presented the award, her voice steady as she praised his quick thinking and courage. But Alex's eyes found Derek in the back row, reinstated but stripped of seniority. Their gazes locked for a brief, charged moment. Derek looked away first. After the ceremony, Alex approached him in the hallway. "You could have killed everyone with your hate," Alex said quietly. "I hope you find a way to live with that." Derek's face crumpled. "I was scared. My brother, he came out, and our family fell apart. I took it out on you." The confession wasn't forgiveness, but it was understanding. Alex walked away feeling lighter. That weekend, he and Jake flew to San Francisco for a much-needed break. They strolled the Golden Gate Bridge hand in hand, the wind whipping around them like freedom. Jake proposed they move to California permanently, closer to his family, closer to the ocean, closer to a life without hiding. Alex hesitated only a moment before saying yes. The decision meant leaving the Chicago base, requesting a transfer, and facing new colleagues who might judge him. But the fear no longer paralyzed him. Back in Chicago, the transfer paperwork went smoother than expected. Carla even smiled when she signed it. "You've earned this, Captain. The industry needs more pilots like you." The words carried weight. As Alex packed boxes in the apartment, memories surfaced, late-night study sessions for his pilot exams. The first time he told Jake, "I love you," over a crackling phone line from Tokyo, the quiet pride in his mother's voice when she called last week to say his father had hung a photo of him in uniform on the fridge. Every piece fit differently now. The moving truck arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Jake stood beside him watching the last box disappear. "Ready for our next adventure?" he asked. Alex pulled him close right there on the sidewalk, kissing him without a single glance around to check who might be watching. Neighbors smiled. A few honked in support. The drive across the country became a healing journey, stopping at roadside diners, hiking in national parks, talking about everything and nothing. In Colorado, they watched the sunset paint the mountains gold, and Alex realized he had spent years chasing horizons when happiness had been waiting on the ground beside him. California welcomed them with open arms. Their new apartment overlooked the Pacific, waves crashing like applause. Alex reported to his new base at LAX, where the crew greeted him with genuine warmth. No whispers, no side eyes. His first flight out of Los Angeles felt different, lighter, truer. Jake met him after landing with flowers and takeout, the simple ritual becoming their new normal. Yet growth isn't linear. One evening, Alex received a call from his old friend and former roommate, Ryan, who had been his wingman through flight school. Ryan's voice was tight. "I saw the news. I wish you'd told me sooner. I said some stupid things back then about guys like you. I'm sorry." The apology opened old wounds and healed them at once. They talked for hours, promising to meet when Ryan's route brought him to California. Piece by piece, Alex's world expanded. The real test came during the holidays. Jake's family hosted Thanksgiving in their San Diego home. Loud, loving, and completely accepting. Watching Jake laugh with his siblings, Alex felt a pang of envy mixed with hope. His own family was trying. His mother had started therapy. His father had sent a text that simply read, "Safe travels, son. Small steps, but steps forward." On Christmas Eve, Alex and Jake walked along the beach at midnight, waves glowing under moonlight. Jake stopped, dropped to one knee, and pulled out a simple titanium ring. "Marry me, Alex." Not because the world almost ended, but because our world is just beginning. Tears stung Alex's eyes as he said yes, the ring sliding onto his finger like destiny. In that moment, surrounded by nothing but sand and stars, he understood that courage wasn't only saving planes. Sometimes courage was simply choosing to love out loud. The wedding planning began in earnest after the new year. Alex and Jake wanted something intimate, close friends, chosen family, and a beach at sunset. But life had other plans. Alex's schedule filled with international routes, and Jake landed a major design contract that kept him traveling too. Their nights together became stolen moments between layovers, yet each reunion felt sweeter. During one long haul to Tokyo, Alex found himself mentoring a young first officer named Sophia who reminded him of himself 10 years ago. Bright, ambitious, quietly carrying her own secret. Over coffee in the crew lounge at Narita, she confided she was gay and terrified of the same prejudice Alex had faced. He shared his story without sugarcoating. The humiliation, the panic, the hard-won acceptance. "The sky doesn't care who you love," he told her. "But people do. Don't let them ground you." Sophia hugged him before deplaning, eyes shining with new courage. Mentoring her became Alex's quiet mission, a way to turn his pain into purpose. Back home, tension resurfaced when Derek unexpectedly reached out via email. "I've been in counseling. I want to apologize in person." They met at a neutral cafe near LAX. Derek looked smaller somehow, stripped of his former bravado. "I almost cost lives because I couldn't face my own fears. I'm stepping down from flying for a while. Therapy, maybe advocacy work." Alex listened, then extended his hand. "We all crash sometimes. The important thing is learning to fly again." The handshake wasn't friendship, but it was closure. Family progress continued in small waves. His parents flew out for a long weekend. His father toured the new apartment, asked careful questions about flying, and even shook Jake's hand. No grand declarations, but when they left, his mother whispered, "We're proud of the man you've become." The words filled a hole Alex hadn't realized was still empty. The wedding date was set for June on a private stretch of Malibu Beach. Invitations went out to 50 people, colleagues, old flight school buddies, Jake's entire family, and Alex's parents. The week before the ceremony, Alex took a solo hike in the Santa Monica Mountains, reflecting on the journey. He remembered the scared kid who had hidden in airplane bathrooms to cry after his first rejection. He remembered the pilot who had stood humiliated in Chicago. And he smiled at the man he had become, stronger, kinder, unafraid. Jake waited at the trailhead with Luna on a leash and a picnic basket. They spread a blanket and watched the sunset, talking about vows and forever. "Whatever turbulence comes," Jake said, "we'll fly through it together." Alex leaned into him, the ring on his finger catching the last light. The bachelor party was low-key, just Ryan and a few close pilots sharing stories around a fire pit. Ryan raised a glass. "To the best damn pilot I know, and the bravest man I've ever met." Laughter and tears mixed freely. Alex realized his chosen family had grown as large as his blood family. The night before the wedding, Alex stood on the balcony of their hotel room, overlooking the ocean. Jake joined him, wrapping arms around his waist. "Nervous?" he asked. Alex turned, kissing him softly. "Only nervous I'll wake up and find this was all a dream." They stayed like that until dawn, hearts beating in sync. June 6th arrived cloudless and perfect. The beach was draped in soft white fabric, chairs facing the waves. Alex's father walked him down the aisle, a quiet nod of acceptance that meant everything. Jake stood waiting, eyes shining. Vows were spoken through happy tears, promises of partnership, honesty, and choosing each other every single day. When they kissed, the cheers rose above the surf. In that moment, every humiliation, every fear, every sacrifice dissolved into pure joy. The reception lasted until stars filled the sky. Dancing barefoot on the sand, Alex pulled Jake close during the slow song. "Thank you for never giving up on me," he whispered. Jake smiled against his cheek. "Thank you for learning to love yourself." Fireworks lit the horizon as guests raised glasses. Alex looked around at the faces, his parents smiling, Sophia taking photos, Ryan dancing with his wife, Carla from HR laughing with Jake's siblings. The boy who once flew to escape had finally landed exactly where he belonged. Life after the wedding settled into a beautiful rhythm. Alex and Jake bought a small house in Santa Monica with a backyard for Luna and a view of the ocean that never failed to remind them how far they had come. Alex's career soared. Promoted to senior captain, he began training new pilots on emergency protocols, turning his Chicago ordeal into official airline curriculum. The module was called Courage Under Pressure, and his story was the centerpiece. Sophia became his regular first officer. Together, they flew routes across the Pacific, mentoring young crew members who reached out privately with their own stories. The aviation community was changing, slowly but visibly. Alex received invitations to speak at LGBTQ plus aviation conferences, sharing how prejudice nearly grounded him and how love lifted him higher. Each speech ended the same way. The sky belongs to everyone brave enough to reach for it. His relationship with his parents deepened through monthly video calls. His father even asked for flight recommendations for their 50th anniversary trip. Small victories accumulated like frequent flyer miles. Derek sent a card on the one-year anniversary of the incident. "Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I'm flying again, different airline, different attitude." Alex pinned the card to his bulletin board as a reminder that redemption was possible for everyone. One crisp morning in March, Alex received an unexpected call from the FAA. They wanted him to testify before Congress on workplace protections for LGBTQ plus pilots. Jake sat beside him on the plane to Washington, holding his hand the entire flight. Standing before the committee, Alex spoke clearly. "I saved hundreds of lives that day in Chicago, not in spite of who I am, but because of the strength love gave me. No one should have to choose between their career and their truth." The room was silent, then erupted in applause. News clips went viral. His story became a beacon. Back home, he and Jake celebrated quietly on their deck with wine and takeout. Luna curled at their feet. "Remember when you thought the world would end if people knew?" Jake teased. Alex laughed, pulling him close. "Now the world feels bigger because they do." They decided to expand their family. Adoption paperwork began the following week. The process was long and emotional, but each home visit and interview reinforced their commitment. 6 months later, they met a 5-year-old boy named Mateo who had lost his parents and needed a safe place to heal. The first time Mateo called Alex Papa and Jake Dada, both men cried in the car afterward. The final piece fell into place during a family vacation to Hawaii. Alex's parents joined them, along with Mateo. Watching his father build sandcastles with his grandson while his mother and Jake collected seashells, Alex felt complete peace. That night on the beach, he turned to Jake. "We made it." Jake kissed him under the stars. "We're just getting started." Years later, when Mateo asked why their family looked different from others at school, Alex sat him down and told the whole story, from the airport panic to the wedding on the sand to the day they brought him home. Being different isn't easy, he said gently, but it's what makes our love strong enough to fly through anything. Mateo nodded solemnly, then hugged both his dads. Looking back, Alex realized the greatest turbulence hadn't been in the sky, but inside his own heart. Every mocking word, every slammed door, every moment of doubt had been a necessary storm that cleared the way for clear skies and open horizons. He still flew, still mentored, still loved with everything he had. And every time he strapped into the captain's seat, he carried not just passengers, but the truth that courage, acceptance, and love could turn even the darkest grounding into the most beautiful takeoff. True or false? Facing public humiliation is the only way for gay men to achieve true freedom and happiness in a prejudiced society.